step back into the 60s and uncover 10 remarkable films that time left behind. These aren't your typical classics. Think lost masterpieces, strange gems, and bold movies Hollywood forgot. If you love digging up overlooked cinema or want to see the wild side of 60s film, this list is for you. John Cassavetes opens Faces with a clear, unvarnished look at a marriage in crisis, pulling you straight into moments meant to stay behind closed doors. The camera lingers, honest and unobtrusive, never softening the tension or regret that ripple through each conversation. Gina Rowlands and John Marley ground the film in performances filled with tension, regret, and occasional tenderness, letting the dynamics of love and resentment play out in subtle gestures and unsaid words. Released in 1968, Faces was groundbreaking for its time. Cassavetes' stripped-back style helped shape a new direction for American independent cinema, emphasizing authenticity and emotional honesty over polished convention. Faces is an essential exploration of vulnerability and human connection, showing that sometimes the simplest stories ring the truest. For years, Faces was overlooked. Its raw, handheld camera work and lack of studio backing kept it in the shadows and far from the Hollywood mainstream. Only later did it earn recognition as a landmark in American independent film. The Shop on Main Street is a quiet, devastating film set in wartime Slovakia, just as fascism tightens its grip. It follows Tono, a simple carpenter assigned by authorities to take over a small Jewish shop, part of the so-called Aryanization process. What unfolds isn't a resistance story or a thriller, it's something more uncomfortable and more honest. Tono forms a hesitant bond with Rosalia, the elderly half-deaf shop owner who barely understands what's happening. Their relationship becomes the heart of the film, a portrait of shared confusion, decency, and the creeping dread of collaboration. Shot in grainy black and white, the tone is restrained but heavy. There's no dramatic music or sweeping gestures, just quiet rooms, long silences, and moral weight that builds slowly, unbearably. It won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, but has never had the lasting recognition it deserves. Maybe because it doesn't offer easy villains or simple catharsis. It's about what happens when ordinary people stay silent. How inaction, not hatred, can destroy lives. It's one of the most essential Holocaust films ever made. Nothing But a Man rewrote the rules in 1964. Duff, Ivan Dixon, a black railroad worker in the Jim Crow South, doesn't set out to change the world. He just wants dignity. When he falls in love with Josie, Abby Lincoln, their bond becomes a subtle act of defiance against the crushing racism around them. The film breaks patterns of Hollywood cliches by refusing to sensationalize. Its clear conflict simmers beneath the surface. Duff's internal struggle for self-respect in a society designed to strip it away. Dialogue is spare and true, and every silence carries weight. The emotional stakes escalate gently yet powerfully, in small choices and quiet courage. Director Michael Romer uses deliberate pacing and minimalistic style, trusting his audience to feel the film's tension without forced drama. The rhythm shifts carefully between intimacy and isolation, with cinematography highlighting the stark realities of Southern life. Raw, honest, yet tender. The lasting emotional hook is the humanity Romer captures in his characters, never symbols, always deeply real. It's not merely good, it's unforgettable. One of the most sensitive, truthful films about American Black life ever made. Still resonant, still essential. The chase ignites slowly, building to a fiery climax. A small Texas town teeters on the edge after convict Bubba Reeves, Robert Redford, escapes prison, fueling paranoia, jealousy, and simmering racial tension. Sheriff Calder, Marlon Brando, worn down, yet still stubbornly moral, fights to maintain order as the community spirals toward violence. Jane Fonda, as Bubber's conflicted wife, delivers one of her earliest emotionally charged roles, torn between loyalty and disillusionment. Director Arthur Penn sharply escalates the stakes, peeling back the town's polite facade to expose mob justice and personal betrayal. Dialogue crackles, loaded with subtext and menace, while shifting alliances amplify the urgency. Penn's pacing accelerates steadily, ratcheting up the pressure to near breaking point, every scene dripping with tension. The film doesn't rely on heroes or easy resolutions, instead building suspense from genuine human weaknesses. Cinematography heightens the sense of claustrophobia and heat, transforming the southern setting into a pressure cooker of conflict. Every character feels real, flawed, desperate. The chase hit too close to home for 1966 audiences, uncomfortable with its honesty about race, class, and violence in America. Today, it's recognized as daring, complex, and necessary. A sharp, uncompromising look at the dark undercurrents of American life, more relevant than ever. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter draws you into the rhythms of a small southern town, capturing life's everyday struggles with piercing authenticity. At its core is John Singer, Alan Arkin, a deaf-mute man who moves through the world gently, absorbing the silent burdens of others. Arkin's performance is remarkable not for dramatics but for restraint, each pause and glance revealing a lifetime of unspoken longing. Director Robert Ellis Miller keeps the drama grounded, giving the characters space to unfold. Mick, Sandra Locke, a restless teen with a quiet hunger for more, finds an unlikely connection in Singer's steady presence. Dr. Copeland, Percy Rodriguez, a principled black physician, confronts both systemic injustice and generational rifts. Even minor characters, shopkeepers, drifters, neighbors, add layers to the story's fabric. Each relationship builds carefully, echoing a shared longing for understanding in a world that rarely offers it. The cinematography captures mood more than motion. Faces, rooms, silences. No sweeping speeches, just a quiet trust in the audience to feel what's left unsaid. Every frame is composed with care, amplifying the quiet ache at the film's center. In 1968, few films treated disability and race with such simple respect. Today, it still feels like a rare gift. Tender, unflinching, and utterly human. One of the most emotionally truthful portraits of American loneliness ever made. Trapped in the late-night maze of a New York City subway car, the incident locks you inside, shoulder to shoulder, with fear. This is a film where tension seeps in from every corner as two petty criminals, played with chilling intensity by Robert Blake and Tony Musante, wreak havoc on a train full of strangers. Among the passengers is a young Martin Sheen in his first film role, quietly anchoring the chaos as a newlywed, desperate to protect his wife.
Touch that switch and I'll tear your arm off.
Their campaign of terror strips away the thin veneer of civility, exposing just how brittle our decency can be when pushed to the limit. Under the meticulous direction of Larry Pierce, the camera becomes a scalpel, dissecting each character with piercing close-ups and moments of chilling stillness. The unforgiving black and white cinematography intensifies the claustrophobia, transforming the subway car into a prison of fear and silence. Performances are raw and unrelenting, as the ensemble cast brings to life the quiet desperation of ordinary people pushed to their breaking point. The incident is a powerful exploration of the fragility of community and the paralyzing grip of fear. Released during a period of profound societal unrest, its themes remain disturbingly relevant, a sharp reminder of the courage required to confront cruelty and injustice. This isn't just a film you watch. It's an experience that lingers, quietly testing your instincts and your courage long after the train stops. Over time, the incident's reputation has only grown, cementing Martin Sheen's place as a future star and earning its spot among American cinema's most gripping ensemble dramas. John Frankenheimer's Seconds doesn't just pose unsettling questions, it immerses you in the harrowing answers. Identity, paranoia, and the urge for reinvention collide in this 1966 psychological nightmare, as one man abandons his old life, face, and name for the promise of something better. What begins as seductive fantasy quickly unravels into a chilling study of existential horror, exposing the illusion of control over who we are and where we truly belong. Distorted lenses and stark contrasts mirror the protagonist's fractured psyche, warping reality into a waking fever dream. Every shot feels deliberately invasive, collapsing the distance between the audience and the film's oppressive dread. The imagery lingers, vivid, haunting, impossible to shake. Frankenheimer crafts a masterpiece of tension, blending quiet reflection with ever-present menace. The film's deliberate pacing forces you to confront the devastating cost of chasing an idealized life. Released during the turbulent 1960s, Seconds tapped into cultural anxieties that still resonate, society's fixation on reinvention and the illusion of perfection. This is not a film that offers escape. It's an unflinching, incisive look at human vulnerability, challenging us to consider what we're willing to sacrifice for fulfillment. Ignored by most in 1966, Seconds has since been recognized as a masterpiece, one of the most unsettling, influential, and visionary American films ever made. Decades later, there's still nothing else like it. The horror is you. Warren Beatty hurls himself into the chaos of Mickey 1, a stand-up comic on the run from threats he can barely name. His performance is tense and wired, a man forever out of breath, caught between the bright glare of the stage and the shadows that stalk him through Chicago's back alleys. Beatty channels paranoia and bruised hope in equal measure, and every scene quivers with uncertainty. Arthur Penn turns 1965 Chicago into a labyrinth of jazz and unease. Shot in grainy black and white by Ghislaine Cloquet, the camera darts through clubs, diners, and rain-slicked streets. The South Side becomes a haunted playground, while Eddie Sauter and Stan Getz thread a cool, needling score through the film. Dialogue splinters, images fracture. Reality itself seems to stutter, just out of reach. Mickey 1 was divisive on release, jagged, unapologetically unconventional, and hard to market. Time reveals its pulse. A feverish riff on identity and guilt, a sharp satire of fame's traps, and a reminder of what movies can do when they refuse to play it safe. Jazz on film, difficult, hypnotic, utterly original. Decades later, it still feels ahead of its time. Shock Corridor lands like a cold slap, direct, unsentimental. Samuel Fuller tells the story of a journalist who checks himself into a mental hospital, chasing a Pulitzer by investigating a murder from the inside. What follows is a slow, uneasy slide into the realities of life on the ward. Fuller paints the hospital with a mix of grit and stark exaggeration, neon lights, cramped hallways, a world where fact and delusion blur together. The patients are wounded in ways that echo the divides of 1960s America. Racism, nuclear dread, gender conflicts, all crowd the halls. You see a country struggling with itself, made claustrophobic and personal. Despite its style and urgency, Shock Corridor was overlooked. Fuller's film was sleazy by Hollywood standards, his themes too abrasive for mainstream audiences. Its blunt honesty and willingness to dig into uncomfortable societal flaws made it easy to ignore when safer stories were on offer. Watching it now, there's no mistaking its relevance. It's a film that documents what others wouldn't touch, and in doing so, it earned its place in the conversation, even if recognition came late. A Holocaust survivor behind a pawn shop counter in 1960s Harlem, grief hidden beneath every interaction. Rod Steiger steps into the role of Sol Nazarman, carrying loss and memory like an old wound that never heals. His performance is a masterclass in restraint. Every look, every held pause is heavy with unspoken grief. Steiger never asks for pity. He compels a deep understanding of a man trying to reconcile the horrors of his past with the demands of the present. His work earned an Oscar nomination, yet the film remains underseen, its influence echoing through generations of filmmakers. Sidney Lumet directs with unflinching precision, using piercing close-ups and fragmented montages to reflect Sol's fractured psyche. Boris Kaufman's cinematography captures the gritty vitality of Harlem against the shadowy specters of memory. Breaking Hollywood taboos, The Pawnbroker received a rare production code exception for scenes featuring nudity, an unprecedented move that helped hasten the code's collapse. Cities including Cleveland banned the film before approvals were restored. On release, it was hotly debated in the press. In 2008, it was added to the National Film Registry. This isn't a story of easy redemption, but a meditation on scars that linger. Unyielding and profoundly human, The Pawnbroker stays with you long after the credits roll, a searing reminder of memory's weight and the resilience of the human spirit. That's 10 forgotten 60s films worth a second look. VintageVerse is all about rediscovery, so drop your own favorites below, hit like and subscribe, and keep digging for what Hollywood left behind. See you next time.